Welcome to episode 47 of Beyond Social Media Show. I am David Erickson, your co-host. You can find me at e-strategyblog.com and on Twitter at @DErickson. I am with, of course, my co-host, BL Ochman. BL you can find at maximum-plus.com for all things Google+. You can find her on Twitter at What's Next. You can find her blog at whatsnextblog.com, and you can find her writing for Ad Age. We, every week, of course, go through the worst cases, the best cases of communications and social media. We talk about some cool new tools or cool old tools, as the case might be, and then we wrap it up with some stats you'll want to know. So let's start off with the worst, and as always, BL, you have the honors. What were the worst cases of communication last week?
Well, as you know, newspapers are in big trouble, print is in trouble, so the LA Times relaunched their website, and they really made it phenomenally beautiful and interesting, and they want to raise the standard of digital news, and they want to engage people in new ways. And so when they announced the launch, they're thinking that they want the site to be as dynamic as their journalism and visually striking and bold, and they make it on all those counts. And they want to have, you know, news and multimedia, and everything is great except for one thing, which is called share lines. And they say they're making it easier for people to share stories. So what they have is pre-written summaries of articles that if you want to share an article on Facebook or you want to tweet, the tweet is written for you. Now, I know that's done by a lot of sites for Twitter, but I just don't think that that's important. And so what they said in Digiday is what I agree with. Now readers can sound intelligent without even reading the article.
Well, that sort of happens all the time already. People share links that they don't read and stuff, and Upworthy gets a lot of traction out of that, right?
I know, but why encourage that? You know, I just think that that's not. I don't think that's a step forward. Let's put it that way.
I did notice on that redesign one thing that was interesting that that marks another trend is visual browsing. So there's an option among the navigation for visual browsing, which is part and parcel with sort of where we're going with the visual web too. So that was interesting to me.
Well, they're trying to make you not have to click through so many links to get to what you want to read. I really like that a lot. You know, I think that's whoever designed that site did a really terrific job of it. I just think, like, you don't need to think for people. So it was a bad week for brands using Q&A on Twitter, and I guess they're just never going to learn. You know, Reagan.com said maybe brands' Twitter Q&As using special hashtags simply aren't such a great idea. So this week, the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell had a Twitter fest, and it went horribly wrong immediately. And unsurprisingly, he didn't answer how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if it wasn't suffering brain trauma from 12 years as an NFL offensive lineman. What did they think was going to happen? And then somebody said, would you call a Native American a redskin to his face? The hashtag was AskCommish. If you were stranded on a desert island with only one book to keep you company, wouldn't that be better for everyone? That's my favorite. And then there was PayPal's director of global strategy who had a meltdown, and he resigned after a string of expletive-filled tweets directed at other executives in the company. This is never a good idea. He called the VP of Global Communications a useless middle manager, and he apologized to her later, but so what? He said it. And he blamed, this is a new one, he blamed his Android phone. He said he had a new phone. You know, he had that new model that tweets whatever it wants without you putting anything in the keys. And he said, last night I was using a new phone that I bought because I wanted to test experiences on Android. Those messages were meant for a colleague. Yeah, well, a colleague got them, and so did the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's what we call a career-limiting move, right? And come on, with the NFL one, BL, you know, I'm a huge football fan. I love watching my Vikings. I love the NFL. But that said, the NFL has some problems, and traumatic brain injury is foremost amongst them. And this Redskins renaming issue is not far behind, and it's entirely, we've talked about this before many times, it's entirely predictable how people are going to react if you give them a forum like this with those issues outstanding, right?
Well, then the other one was the Chicago Transit Authority. They have this new rollout for a pavement system called Ventra, and it's having all kinds of problems. This is not probably the perfect time to have a Q&A about Ask Ventra. So about 100 people responded seriously, and then people said, what kind of mammal came up with your plan? Meerkat, poop-flinging monkey, or drunk toddler? And then my favorite one really was how do commuter tears taste? And then there was, what can we do to make you go away? But the amazing part about all this was that the spokesperson for the Chicago Transit Authority, whose name is Tammy Chase, who needs his or her head examined, called the chat a success, saying that the authority was, quote, pretty pleased. Really?
Well, declare victory and move on, right?
What made them happy about that, I wonder? Yeah, we're pretty pleased at the way people hate us. I mean, what, when will this stop? I mean, there were 3 this week, that's a good week for us, but I mean, what brands are going to blow it next week? It's like you said, it's totally predictable.
We could have a game show on it.
I just wonder, like, I assume they don't read about what happens to other brands on Twitter, and they think that they're the first one that's ever done this. That's the only thing I could think of.
Well, I mean, clearly a lot of this stuff is just not thought through. There's not enough time given to exactly what we want to accomplish, how we want to do it, and what's the upside and the downside. Not thinking about the downside. So
strategy. Yeah. This is what's missing from most brands is their content strategy, and why is that? Yeah. I'm astounded every time I see it. So let's move on to some things that were good, because those are just ridiculous.
Speaking of hashtags, I have a good hashtag story this week. So Amazon came out with hashtag commerce. This is finally social commerce that works. So what it is an app that when you find a link in your Twitter stream to an Amazon product, if you reply to that link with the hashtag Amazon cart, you can drop that into your shopping cart, your Amazon shopping cart, to purchase later. And it's pretty effortless to do that, and that's been the struggle with social commerce, buying stuff on social channels thus far. It's just hard to do. So this seems to solve that. What you need to do is go to Amazon.com/Amazon cart and hook up your Twitter account to your Amazon account so they talk together, and then you're good to go. So I haven't seen a link in my Twitter stream yet to be able to try this out, but I'm anxious to try it out. Knowing Amazon, it probably works pretty well. So
I haven't seen one either, but that sounds a little dangerous for me.
Exactly. I buy so many ebooks now through Amazon because you're on a podcast. I'll buy that one.
Then there are the shoes and the makeup, and it's already too easy.
So another one, we already talked about the NFL, their problems with the Ask Commish Q&A, right, on Twitter. Yeah. But the NFL had this week started their NFL draft, right? And so I got to talk about the good side of the NFL as far as marketing communications is concerned.
You go, Dave. Yeah.
So last year the draft started in April. This year they pushed it out to starting in the first week of May. So they extended the season for us NFL fans to be chatting, researching all the draft picks, and da-da-da-da. It was really a very smart move, so we had another month to talk about it, and we did. And so they held the NFL draft. They extended the draft rather than 2 days, over 3 days. It started on Thursday, the first round of the draft, second, third round on Friday, and then the rest today. So my Vikings came out and had the 8th overall pick because we were abysmal last year, and we got a great linebacker, which we needed, and then moved up into the first round to grab a quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. So we're good to go. But this the Vikings. The Vikings are looking good this season. But the NFL draft, the NFL does a great job of content marketing. You can see this on Google Trends. So if you go to google.com/trends/hot trends and just scroll back, beginning on Wednesday, you can start seeing the NFL draft dominating search query volume on Google. So they do a great job.
Did fans get to vote?
No, fans don't get to vote.
That's too bad. You know, maybe next year. Better luck next year. So I have a good one. YouTube is now allowing you to make a 3-second intro video that you can automatically add at the start of every video on your channel, and you can choose whether you want to add it to all your videos or just the ones after a certain date, and you can remove them or change them later, and you just upload it as an unlisted video, and then you select add a channel branding intro on your channel's in-video programming page, and then you choose the videos where you want them to appear. And you can't use them as ads or sponsorships or product placement. They're a tool to help you promote your brand. I think it would have been more helpful for those of us who have a lot of content to allow you to use a different intro for each playlist. I mean, I have videos about my dog and videos about my swing dancing and videos about beyond social media on my channel, and I would not want the same intro for all of them, but you know, it's for those people who don't know how to do their own, I guess. But the best comment on that post was, about time. Blip TV had this feature from the start, and that was 8 years ago.
It's a cool new feature. I haven't tried it out. I'm looking forward to trying it out. But you do point out a cautionary tale too. If you're adding it to all your videos, then your playlists are going to have an intro for every
You know, I mean, we both have, you know, you have your football and music, and so I think that it's helpful to people who don't know how to make their own intro video. It's helpful to people who, you know, are a little bit challenged with all of the technology that they have to deal with. So it's certainly better than nothing. That's the only way I could look at it, and maybe they'll catch up to Blip TV someday. You've got another good one, Dave.
Yeah. So last Sunday, The Simpsons had an episode that started with a black screen and Homer Simpson's voiceover simply saying, "It's co-branding. It's not selling out. It's co-branding. It's not selling out." And they launched into the couch gag, which was all Legoized. So the entire episode was based on a story of an alternate universe in which was Legoized versus the real Simpsons universe, which was ordinary animation. And the story was, you know, the built-in branding, product placement for Lego. And I just think Lego does such a brilliant job of marketing, of doing their content marketing. They're really, I mean, almost secondarily a toy company, and really a media company now, with all the ways that they find of extending their brand to different entertainment media. So I'm amazed at that company. I think they do such a good job.
I absolutely agree with you. They've done and consistently good. You know, not like every once in a while they do something that's pretty cool. Everything they do is pretty cool, and I love this Simpsons episode.
It's brilliant.
Mark was so adorable in Legoland. You know, they were all, I mean, it works so well. It's just so absolutely perfect for them, and it's co-branding, not selling out. It's hilarious.
Yeah. You know where that comes from too, though, is they I'm sure, now don't quote me 100%, but there have been people creating what is it, dioramas, or what is the setting up a picture of a historical scene or a pop culture scene. So people have been doing Legoized versions of the couch gag, of the Simpsons couch gag, is simply setting up with their own Legos and taking a picture of it and sharing that online. They've also been doing animated Lego videos.
And some of those are
wonderful. Forever.
Yeah.
So they're amazing.
And
so Lego got those ideas to do this, to extend their brand through crowdsourcing, basically.
Yeah. No, they really, whoever is in charge there, and we should find them and interview them, is brilliant. I found something that I don't quite understand really, but Condomania is a chain that's popular in Japan, and so Ogilvy and Mather hired someone whose name is Photographer Hal, and what he did was he packed couples in hermetically sealed plastic, naked couples, to preserve their love forever and produce a series of print ads. And the logistics of this, you know, they put them in this pack and then they take all the air out of it. So he had to work really fast because they can only stay in there for 10 seconds before they start choking to death. And so there's a documentary that shows how he did it and then why he did it and how the couples felt about it. And it's part of a bigger brand campaign. It has indoor advertising and street posters, and it's a real famous franchise in Japan, and they want to promote safe and protected love to their audience, and this is one thing you can't ignore. I mean, I'll say that for them, and it's multimedia, and it's very strange.
Yeah, I have saw those floating around, and I saw you put it in the show notes. And I mean, the images are arresting, but the images absolutely stop and capture your eye, and that's their job. So it's like shrink-wrapped naked humans, right? Shrink-wrapped couples.
Yes, embracing.
Look like they're shrink-wrapped in a condom. It's fascinating and both a little creepy at the same time.
Disturbing. I found it slightly disturbing. I would have to agree. You know, like, ooh. And why did they agree to do that? And ew. The other thing that happened this week that I'm shaking my head about is that Purina, which is an enormous company, $100 billion in sales, they sued Blue Buffalo, which is an all-natural, family-owned pet food company, and they said that Blue Buffalo is lying about their ingredients. Purina said that they did independent tests and that Blue Buffalo is not using the pure ingredients that they say they are. And Blue Buffalo, to their credit, responded immediately on their website, and they said, "We are disappointed to see one of the largest food companies in the world with over $1 billion in sales launching such a baseless lawsuit against a family-run company and then attempting to prosecute it on the internet." And that is exactly what Purina has done. And, you know, in some ways it's not surprising because customers want natural food. I'm a pet owner. I don't want to have byproducts and corn-based foods that could be bad for my animals. I, you know, like many of us who have pets, we go out of our way to try and find the most natural kinds of foods because we want to keep our pets around. And that's what they said on the Blue Buffalo website. You know, it's Purina's inability to compete successfully with natural foods that's the key that motivates this frivolous lawsuit. And they said, you know, we look forward to seeing Nestle Purina in court. Why would Nestle Purina do something like that? I mean, kudos to Blue Buffalo for fighting back and doing it as publicly, but what neither of them has done is really publicly give the sources of their ingredients. They haven't become open books, and you know, it's just crazy to me that this lawsuit would take place online and that it happened at all.
Yeah, well, from Blue Buffalo's point of view, I guess the only way that they can really fight back, given, you know, the resources that a company like Purina would have at their disposal, is online. You try to create a groundswell of support, and, you know, I think this is. I don't know the facts of the case. I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but this is sort of a textbook example of how David fights Goliath, right, online.
Absolutely, and the tools that are available to Blue Buffalo, even 5 years ago, really would not have. Well, maybe longer. Ever since Twitter's been around, there have been tools for making some noise, you know, and it remains to be seen who will win. But having a fight in the court of public opinion is not likely to benefit anybody. But I'm glad David's fighting back. So I think that brings us to shiny new objects.
Does indeed.
Yeah. Well, Foursquare has split in two, and they want to compete with Yelp. And I guess they realize that, you know, just the login of where you are is not so meaningful as it might have been years ago. So now they have a new app called Swarm, and it won't have check-ins. It's going to be a social heat map that helps you find your friends nearby and check their location. And rewritten Foursquare will launch in about a month, and the new Foursquare will not have the check-in, and it will focus on exploration and discovery, kind of like Yelp, and try to become a Yelp killer in the great battle for local search. The goal is that your phone doesn't just tell you what's nearby, it tells you what you'll enjoy based on everywhere you and your friends have ever been. But no apps like this have ever succeeded. Banjo, Sonar, Highlight, that helped you track down your friends, and Interesting Strangers. They were also broad in their scope that they bombed. So it remains to be seen what will happen here. Personally, I use Yelp as my search engine of choice when I'm on my phone, because I don't use it for the reviews. I use it to find where I'm going, get directions.
Yeah, I'm skeptical as you are of Swarm succeeding, because, as you said, I mean, I still use Foursquare to check in just to see how it's still working and how or not, and I actually used it to find directions to a place that didn't have very specific directions on Google Maps the other day. So it was useful for that. I use it for recommendations. When I'm I'll check in at a restaurant and see that some people that I'm connected to have made recommendations on something and use it for that. So as a Yelp competitor, I definitely will use it in that way. But Swarm, I think, a lot of the people that I know don't use Foursquare, don't check in anymore on Foursquare, don't see the point of checking in at places, and are sort of freaked out a little bit when they see things like a friend of theirs checked in at the gynecologist. Oh, no, too much information, right?
TM.
I don't want to see that. So that's what I think is the problem with Swarm-type apps is you don't really care nor want, in some cases, to know about some stuff. So.
Well, we don't, but, apparently there still are people who do, and I have friends who do, and I think, like, why do I care that you're at your yoga class? So what? And I mean, it's just, we're so bombarded with information, but maybe their research is better, maybe it's showing that this is something people want. I think it's going to bomb. But there's a PowerPoint killer that I've got an eye on, that PowToon, which is a cartoon app, has a new thing coming that's called, what is it called? It's called the Photosh, I think, and it is, I'm sorry, it's called #Slides, and it has a royalty-free library with more than 3 million images that you can use, and it makes infographics and animations. And PowerPoint does not do that, and everyone hates PowerPoint because you can't. It's so hard to make them pretty, and it's so hard to make them really compelling. So I think there's a really good chance that something like this could make it. I certainly signed up for the beta, and we'll put the link where you can do that.
Very cool. I'm going to try this. This looks awesome.
It does look awesome, right? I mean, that and Canva together, and what else do you need? And the other one that I found, which is near and dear to my heart, is called Fast Customer, and it's kind of like your personal tech slave. You know how you try and call a company and you want to get customer service and you're on hold for half an hour? I was on hold the other day for 40 minutes waiting for the New York Times customer service, returning a phone call that they made to me. This did not make me a happy customer. So Fast Customer lists over 3,000 companies, and they can connect you with specific departments like billing or technical support. And what happens is that the minute that it holds on till the rep picks up, and then you get a ping like you should pick up now. There's a live person on the phone. I can't wait to try that.
Nice. It's sort of reverse auto dialing for like the polling or the sales calls that are auto dialed, and you pick up and there's a pause before somebody. So the customer version of that. Nice.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool, and we'll see whether it works. I mean, what usually works is to just not answer correctly, and then you get connected to a. But you have to listen to. It's very clear that companies don't want to hear from you. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So you've got some apps.
I do. So I came across a message board or web boards 2.0. So I haven't used message boards or web boards really that much personally for a while because they're so clunky, because they're so sort of wonky and hard to use and not very enjoyable experience.
And ugly, actually.
And ugly, well, that's part of it, absolutely.
Yeah.
So discourses.org is a new open source message board software that you can download and install, sort of the WordPress of message boards. It has features like continuous scrolling. It has, so rather than breaking up a discussion into page 1 through 25 or whatever, it just continuously scrolls, so you don't have to page over the next set of discussion results. It's got notifications for mentions, so when you're mentioned or you're commented on in a post, it will send a notification to your desktop, so you don't have to follow it through that. It's mobile friendly. Links automatically expand inline, so if you're sharing a YouTube link, it's not just a link to the YouTube video, but it embeds the video and automatically expands inline. So it looks like a much more enjoyable experience. So if your company, your organization has a need for a web board type functionality, this is something I'd definitely look at. The other one, which is not new, but it's been around for a while, but it's vastly underused, is Google URL Builder. I don't think I've ever talked about the URL Builder in the show, but I figured, yeah, it's probably worth mentioning. So if you search Google URL Builder, what this does is you take a URL of a page that you're going to share on social, and I do this with all my links to my blogs on Twitter. Or if you're doing an ad on Facebook and you want to send them to a landing page, take that URL and plug it into the URL builder, and it will give you additional parameters to the end of that URL. So you've seen the question mark equals UTM underscore scores equals blah, 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 blah at the end of the URLs. That's what that is, and what it does is it tells Google Analytics about that link and adds keywords to that link, so it's easy to track the results to that traffic in Google Analytics.
It adds them automatically, or you add them?
Adds them automatically. So you have to add them to the URL, but once you share that URL with all those parameters on it, anybody who clicks on that link will be tracked in Google Analytics according to the parameters you define. So if you have a source of Facebook and a campaign of advertising and a medium, whatever, you add your own defining characteristics, and then you can see it easily in Google Analytics and track that traffic. So that's something that we marketers have been using for a long time, and it's just a lot of dealing with a client right now that has not been using that, and they should be, to track all their traffic. So it's vastly underutilized. Cool.
Is that only available on the enterprise level, or can anybody use it?
Anybody can use it. So it's basically talking to Google Analytics to be able to track links that you're sharing. So that's
Google's link shortener, but I didn't know about their link.
Well, you gotta do it hand in hand, right? So if you're sharing on social, you need to lengthen the link with all your parameters that you want to track for Google Analytics, and then take that and shorten it so it fits into a tweet, right?
Right.
Sort of a two-step process. Hootsuite sort of has that functionality built in. If people use Hootsuite, there's a drop-down menu from the link shortener where you can add in automatically the parameters that you want, and then it'll shorten that and do all that.
I find Hootsuite clunky to use, and that's why I don't use it. So this sounds, I must take a look at
that. So that's what I got. Should we wrap it up with the daily numbers?
Absolutely. What are the numbers this week?
So this week I've got Generation V, and I call them Generation V for virtual. Other people are calling them, I don't know what they're calling them, but that's what I'm calling them. So the next generation after millennials, their most popular online activities by gender. This is from a survey by KidSay, which is a marketing research firm of 532 kids ages 8 through 11. 41.5% and 36.3% of 8 to 11-year-old U.S. males and females, respectively, use the internet many times a day, the top frequency for both groups, and around 1/5 did so daily. So we're starting, this generation is coming up, we're starting to need to pay attention to what they're doing, and a lot of what they're doing is online naturally. And so I'm going to go through some of the what they're doing online. Playing games, 45% of males and 39% of female Generation V members play games online, the most popular activity. Watch videos, 38% of males watch videos online, 27.6% of females watch videos online. Chat and social networks, 7% of males, 9.2% of females.
Wait. Did it say what social networks they're on?
Just social network generically, not which one. So it could be Twitter, I suppose. It could be Facebook. Search the internet, 4.4% of males and 11% of females search the internet. 3.1% of males download music, 5.7% download music for females, and finally the most important category, 2.6% of males do schoolwork online, and 7.5% of females do schoolwork online. So that is sort of a glimpse of what Generation V is doing online.
Did the survey say whether they're doing this on desktops or on mobile devices or on iPads? It doesn't sound like a very thorough survey.
Yeah, I didn't see that broken out. The sample size is small. We're only starting to get this type of stuff. A lot of the problem with the data from the next generation is simply they're young, and you don't get that. I mean, Facebook has privacy. Everybody's got privacy policies for kids, so you don't get a lot of that. So.
Well, but you would be able to get it through schools, and the schools would be able to contribute to that data because they have those kids in there every single day, and they could ask them. I think that's not the best survey we've seen.
It's not. What is unique is it's numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't get them very often. So.
But clearly, that's a really interesting category to be following, and somebody should be following it in a scientific manner, So that brings us to the end of episode 47 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you can find David Erickson on Twitter as DErickson, on his blog at eStrategyBlog.com. He's also got eStrategy TV, eStrategy-TV, Dave?
eStrategy.tv.
eStrategy.tv, and of course he's on Google+, and you can find us both on the BeyondSocialMediaShow.com blog, and you can find me on Twitter. I'm at What's Next. My blog is What's Next Blog. My new company is Maximum-Plus.com for all things Google+, training and events, and you will find me writing at Ad Age, working on an article right now. And where else am I? I'm on YouTube, as Dave is, and on Google+, and we will timestamp this video so that you can go directly to any segment you are interested in, and we will put it on our blog, on our YouTube channel, and on our Google+ page, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Same station.